Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Journey Through the Awesome. I'm so glad that you could tune in on this beautiful, beautiful Friday, when hopefully I'll be able to upload this without any internet disruptions. Um, the weather outside is very dark, gray, and gloomy, so I decided why not take this opportunity to share with everybody some supernatural monsters that may lurk in America. Now, this is parts 5 of my little mini series of my larger series where we will be delving into the supernatural in America. And so this is our statewide journey where we stop in each state and we explore a supernatural creature that may be lurking in that state. So if you haven't watched the other parts, I highly encourage you to watch the other ones. I'll make sure to link them somewhere in this video. I'll probably have them as the pop-ups. But if you want to watch those, if you want to see all of these monsters that supposedly are real and supposedly are out there terrorizing innocent people, then I highly recommend checking out those other parts. Before we also get into this, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for giving your time to watch whatever it is I am putting out there on the internet. Okay, because as I always say, the internet is a series of machines and gears that link to each other, and they give us all of these different products that we can put in front of our faces instantly. Instantly. You can just see this, and you do not have to take a remote and then press a button to turn on something. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe you have that really cool luxury to have that. That would be really cool. But for the most part, you're just getting this stuff instantly. This is not like TV. This is not like a gaming device where you just turn it on and it takes a long time to load, and then sometimes you get glitches and graphic issues and all that stuff. You have to call in the game company and you're like, "Yo, fix this." No. You just go through this, you get this stuff instantly, you get this content that's put right in front of you, and then you come up with something that's awesome to respond to it, like a horrible comment that is badly written and full of complaints about how I did not do my research on what I'm talking about. But I guarantee you, this is all coming from authentic, amazing sources, like the Pacific Sentinel, which is coming to us with our first story of our first supernatural monster today, the Bat Squatch of Oregon. Yes, Bat Squatch, not Sasquatch, Bat Squatch. So, like I said, Portland State student-run newspaper. They talk about this from a historical and modern lens. So this story, let's go through the context. In 1980, the mainland America was hit by the biggest volcanic eruption it had ever seen. It had struck all of these different states, and it was one of the biggest eruptions in the world, let alone in America. But when it struck, it was caused by this 5.1 magnitude earthquake. And then when that hit, this eruption happened, and it led to the biggest landslide the area had ever seen. It had taken so many lives and had caused so much property damage and destruction. So many injuries were caused, so many lives were lost, so many people were lost. And in the ensuing chaos, somebody managed to snap this picture that was taken, and people looked at it and said, "Wow, this is horrible. But wait a second. There's something in that picture. There's something right there that I don't really understand." And what they saw was a Bat Squatch. Not Batman. Not Bruce Wayne going out there trying to save people from a volcanic eruption, which is weird because I don't believe Gotham City would be in Oregon. I feel like Gotham City, if it would be in any state, would be New York, right? But if it wasn't Oregon, then they probably saw Batman, but that wasn't Batman, that was Bat Squatch. Half Bigfoot, half bat. And so people looked at this photo, they said this is what it had to be, and this was accompanied by some stories in the overall area, but specifically in Oregon. In April 1994, I have this story here that again comes from the Sentinel. Brian Canfield. His truck was driving down an isolated road at night. This is what driving a truck looks like. You're just doing this all day. You do this, you start moving, you start going forward. You don't even need to turn on the truck, just start doing this. So he was doing this, and then his truck stopped. Very typical horror movie situation. And so he's sitting there, but he tries to start the truck several times, and it does not start. So let me lay out the situation. He's stuck in the middle of an isolated road at night. His truck has stopped. He keeps trying to turn it on. It will not turn on. So he is in pretty much every horror movie victim's worst nightmare. He's stuck on this road. Anything could leap out at him. And in fact, that is what happened. Because according to his account, I'll just read it here. Oh, well, first of all, it started, a creature had swooped down from the sky and landed in front of his truck. And so then, I have a quote here from him. "It was standing there staring at me, like it was resting, like it did not know what to think. I was scared. It raised the hair on me. I did not feel threatened. I just felt out of place. It is looking right at me, like in a deep stare, like right through me. It is standing perfectly still. It stood for how long? A few minutes. It's, as my computer goes to black, several minutes. Then its fingers twitched, and this twitching fingers, and its wings began to unfold. Those wings were as wide as the road. It turned its head, looked back at me, and started flapping its wings. Flap, flap, flapping sound effects. A few minutes later, the truck just started. I took off as fast as I could. So his truck managed to miraculously come back to life as this monster came down and was probably going to attack him and eat him for dinner. Very coincidental there, though. I highly doubt the validity of this story based on the exact moment the truck started. You saw this monster, it came down, and this whole time you could not start the truck, but then it started right as the monster was about to probably leap at you, have you for its nice midnight snack. I don't really see that. I feel like the truck should have started before that. I mean, what caused it to stall to begin with? Okay, what we're missing from this story is the hour-long additional story, the epilogue, where Brian goes to the nearest AAA place and he gets his jumper cables on his truck, and then he realizes what was wrong with it was that the engine was just out of oil and he needed some oil. He really needed that oil, and that bat was probably going to give some oil to him. Wasn't even a bat. Was it, like I said before, a Batman cosplay enthusiast with machines in his cape that made him fly everywhere? I don't know. Okay, what is your theory on this story, this situation? Next up, we have Tennessee, the White Bluff Screamer. The story comes to us from WKRN News, who says, after World War I, this man, his wife, and his kid all move into, son, daughter, it could be either, and their kid move into this cabin near what is now White Bluff, Tennessee. But at the time, that was not its name. It was just a random territory. So they move into this forest, to this cabin near the forest. They move into a forest. They get a tent and they set it down. No, they move into a cabin near the forest, and then suddenly, they begin hearing this screaming. This animalistic screaming that does not sound like a man or a woman. It sounds like animalistic screaming. Like an animal being gutted alive. And so one day the wife tells the husband, she says, "Husband, I would like you to go out there and shoot that animal. It is annoying. I cannot, I'm trying to watch my shows." The husband is like, "Okay, I will handle this." So he goes to get his gun, and then he goes out into the forest to go investigate the screaming. As he's getting closer and closer to where this animal guttural sound is coming from, it stops. For a very brief moment, it is all quiet in the wilderness. But then suddenly it comes back, and this time it is accompanied by the wailing of the man's wife and his kid. So then, naturally, he's like, "Whoa, what is going on?" So he runs back to the cabin to find them gone. And in their place is a lot of blood, a lot of gore, and then he realizes this monster has just murdered my family and probably absorbed their screams, because that is what it does. I believe this is taken from a movie concept of some kind, but this has been around for years, so it may have inspired a lot of media, and there's not much else to this. After that, people end up being very diverse and different about what the ending to this story was. Some people say that what happened afterwards was he went back into the forest and encountered this ghost of a woman that looked at him, said something very scary, and then flew away in blue light, shrouding the world in this glowing, beautiful blue radiance. Okay, and that would have been really cool. But then some people say, okay, he encountered a beast, a very big, hairy beast that growled at him and then ran away. What was the ending to the story? We will never know, which means it probably did not happen. But whatever it was, this is a very terrifying story. And I will say, in spite of the fact that I've been, a little bit joking, this is a really, really cool piece of mythos. Okay, I like the plots, I like the story, I like the build-up. You could make a lot of good media out of this. Films, TV shows, and all of that. The next state we have is Wisconsin. Specifically, the Hodag. The Hodag. So in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, they have a website where they talk about the history of this cryptid. And so in 1896, pioneer Eugene Shepard snapped a picture of a beast before it leapt out at him from a log in the forest. So it said that he had white horns, not Eugene. The creature had white horns, big tusks, and claws. This was actually later revealed to be a hoax people said like, oh, he came out and he just saw something that was a bunch of twigs and sticks that looked like a monster, and then he snapped a picture to make a huge legend out of it. But it still ended up being developed into this big mythos that is now native to Wisconsin. So much so that people today now have a festival called the Hodag Festival. People today are hosting the Hodag Festival in Wisconsin. And so, not like today, but in the modern age, which is a celebration of American country culture, including music, dancing, and all types of celebrities from the Western country world. Which is really cool. Good for you guys. I think it's also really cool that we can have celebrations and festivals based on mythos and creatures from mythology and culture. Even just cryptids, even something that started as simple as a story from a small place. That's really awesome that these things can be developed into these huge ideas that we make customs and cultural traditions out of. Really speaks to the power of these stories. But next up, we have Pennsylvania, the Susquehanna seal. This comes to us from northcentralpennsylvania.com. So, roll with me here, okay? Level with me. There is a monster out there that is supposedly a hybrid cross, genetic hybrid mutation of a dinosaur and a hippo. Somewhere out there, and it is terrorizing people in boats in Pennsylvania. That is what this story is. So I'm going to read to you another quote that comes from one of the lumbermen who encountered this monster. Suddenly the raft began to scrape and rub hard against some hidden object, which is to be either a new sandbar, this is what I get for not reading these quotes in advance, or a rock detached and rolled into the channel. The raft swung around, squeaked, strained, and finally came to a full stop. The obstruction seemed to disappear, which was very strange and puzzling to me. Okay, whatever happened here, there's this monster that is lurking beneath the waters of multiple Pennsylvania lakes that is a hybrid between a hippo and a dinosaur. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Some people have just reported they see a large object in the lake. It could have been a boulder, but they say it was a mysterious thing that could terrify them. This is just another it's another story of objects in water being mistaken for what they really are, which are just rocks, boulders, and sticks. Nobody really has a lot of evidence for this, and that's kind of the consistent thing with all of these. But with this, it's just kind of like, all right. Like, we want to take a story, we want to take some of these accounts of something that may have easily just been another creature that is very natural, and just rub it up against our boats because it had a very itchy back, and it was trying to scratch its back on our boat, so then we all went over and we were like, what is this? This is no fish. This fish is huge. It's probably a shark. Native to Pennsylvania. And so they rubbed against our boats and then we fell out, so we're coming up with these stories to say, we weren't that scared. We were strong men. We were not intimidated by some giant monster in a lake. Huh? I'll go out there and fight that monster myself. Take off all my clothes for some reason. And then go out there and jump in there and take on this monster with my bare meat hands. Good lucks to you. Good lucks to you. Because I guarantee you that monster is not going to go easy on you, man. The last one comes to us from Rhode Island. One of my friends lives in Rhode Island. I haven't talked to her in a while, actually. But she lives in Rhode Island. And so maybe she has seen this. I don't know. It's actually not something that you see, though. It is a story of what goes wrong when a lot of people assume that somebody or something is a monster. So this is actually a very real account, so I may not be joking about this as much. This comes to us from Smithsonian Magazine. So what happened here, I'm going to try to summarize this as best I can because there are a lot of details. So, historical story, 1700s to 1800s in America, New England, there is a huge tuberculosis epidemic going around. Cross this with a lot of urban legends that there are vampires going out there sucking people's blood. This was also an epidemic going around. It was called the Great New England Vampire Scare. So, everybody is saying, while all of these tuberculosis cases are going around, everybody is a vampire. And they're just sucking blood, and that's what's causing all this disease, all this mayhem. This was also the age where medical knowledge was terrible, and it was not helping or treating anybody. So the actual story was that Mercy Lena Brown was born in Exeter, Rhode Island, and it says 1800s. I believe 1890s is more accurate, or like she lived there around that time when this happened. And so as her family began contracting tuberculosis, it was her mom and then her sister. They passed away, and then she passed away, all from tuberculosis. So all three of them passed away in a row. And then after that, their brother, or Lena's brother Edwin, contracted tuberculosis. He became sick, and the villagers all said, "There's this pattern going on. What if, again, stupid thinking here, so the women that just got tuberculosis and passed away were all vampires. And they're all feeding on the blood of Edwin, and that is how he's getting sick, and that's why they all got sick at around the same time, because they're all vampires. We have to do something about this." So they go to the father of Mercy Lena Brown, who was the last woman in the family to pass away at this time, and he gave them permission to exhume the remains and then burn them. Burn them to an ash, which they then fed to the brother, Edwin, that had contracted it. And then he passed away not too long afterwards because he just ate the ash of some dead people. So then, that's basically where the story ends. And that is, it's not so much like a testament to anything supernatural going on in Rhode Island today. It is a testament to how stupid human beings can be when we don't have the proper scientific knowledge or resources to guide our thinking and our actions. And when we can act completely like insane maniacs. That is what happened. There's not much to it. There is no vampire going around in Exeter. And all of the stories that are accusing people of being vampires that are based on this, watch out. Be careful. Okay? Because I have seen, as I was doing research for this, there are some articles out there that are like, what if there are vampires in Rhode Island today? There aren't. Okay? I would like there to be vampires somewhere. If they did exist, and I could go on adventures with them and hang out with them, maybe even be one myself, that would be cool. I would like to be a vampire, try it out. I could never go out in the daytime, though, which would be good today because it's sad and depressing outside. But otherwise, being a vampire would be really cool. So that's going to do it. What have you learned from this? What can you take to your science class, to school, to work, the workplace conversations that you will have in the office? What can you take from this to make your life better and then go out there and maybe discover something new about supernatural monsters who live near you? Okay? All of this knowledge comes in handy for when we inevitably have to defend ourselves from